Professional football in America is a special game, a unique game. Played nowhere else on earth, it is a rare game. The men who play it make it so.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs and have some fun.
Coming now, buddy. We on our horse all day long. Let's just kick that butt all day long. Pick it up. Don't stop. Pick it up. Let's go.
Get after the ball. Get to somebody.
Regulators, mount up. We're coming.
Pro football is a mirror of early America, reflecting toughness, courage, and self-denial.
There he is. Whoa. Whoa. Good job. Good job.
I just want to make a play out there, buddy. Nice job.
Overpowered too. Ready?
45 black. 45 black.
Keep on playing at this level now. Huh? Keep it.
Welcome, everyone, to our premiere episode of ALL-22 Dynasty Fantasy Football. My name is Justin of JustinPaulSports, and this will be a weekly Friday Dynasty Fantasy Football show. It will be year-round, no exceptions, but I do not do this show alone. So without any further ado, let me introduce my co-host, Bobby from Bobby's Big Board. Hello, Bobby. How are you?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I am super pumped for the first episode. This is going to be absolutely awesome. So much fun.
How are things going on your side of the Mississippi, sir?
Absolutely awesome. It's a beautiful Friday here in Mississippi. So what better to do than watch some film, break down some of my favorite quarterbacks in this class.
Quarterbacks, the most premier position in Dynasty Fantasy Football. I mean, for the sake of the show, what we're going to do is we're going to be doing super flex. Seems to be the more popular type of dynasty. And I like to do half PPR. Are you in a half PPR league or full?
Most of my leagues are full PPR.
Full. So there'd be more emphasis on running backs that can catch the rock more than anything else. Running backs probably have more weight in gold. I would assume so. Well, we do have a elite. Not elite, but this is kind of a fun quarterback class. It definitely made the draft entertaining. I mean, we saw Mel Kiper had a meltdown about Shedeur Sanders not being picked in the first round. I mean, it was a legendary television moment. And then we had Cam Ward, who was unofficially number one. I mean, my personal opinion, Cam absolutely was a great quarterback. I think he is the best pick of the litter in this draft. We had Cam. And we had Jackson Dart, who went in the first round to the New York Giants. They traded up to get their guy. And I think as a franchise, when you've been going through the growing pains that they've been going through, that's definitely what you want to do.
Yeah, for sure. There's a ton of really fun prospects in this draft. We're going to be covering a bunch of them. Anywhere from your high-end dual threat quarterbacks that have tons of rushing upside to some of your more traditional pocket passers as well. This class has pretty much everything in between that as well. So I'm really excited, man. I definitely want to get into this right off the bat.
Yeah, it's going to be good. What we're going to do is Bobby's going to kind of guide us through the ALL-22 coaches film on some of these prospects so you can get a better understanding of what you need for your Dynasty Fantasy Football team. Like I said at the beginning of the show, and experienced Dynasty players, even the inexperienced, maybe if you're new to this channel or new to the game itself of the Dynasty format, what you want to do is understand that quarterbacks have more value in super flex leagues. They touch the ball in every play, and with that is why we're going to kind of go through the film more so on quarterbacks than you will running backs maybe, but quarterbacks for sure, wide receivers for sure, and we might touch on some IDP stuff with defensive players. But today's episode is a premiere episode, and it's all about the quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to hand it over to you. We're going to start with I'm going to add your information to the board here and introduce us to Cam Ward.
Yeah, so Cam Ward, I mean, there's no quarterback better to start with than Cam Ward out of Miami. He's 6'2", 219 pounds, which is pretty solid for the quarterback position. Not elite size, prototypical size, but it's enough to get the job done. He was the first overall pick, so that means elite draft capital. So, your quarterbacks that get that first-round draft capital are very, very valuable. He got drafted by the Tennessee Titans, who are in desperate need of a quarterback right now. And he's only 23 years old, so you'll see. We'll talk about some older prospects here in a little bit. But 23 years old, he did play 5 years in college, which seems to be more of the growing standard now in college football. And he absolutely balled out last year, guys. 4,300 passing yards, 39 touchdowns to 7 interceptions in the AAC, which, he wasn't just playing, Division II schools. He was actually playing some solid competition. And, he's got some really good throws on film. He can make pretty much any throw on the football field for the most part. And what really stands out about Cam Ward, guys, are his improvisational skills. This guy makes a play from nothing, very Patrick Mahomes-like, where he can just scramble out of the pocket, evade sacks, and just throw it off script and make plays all over the place. I mean, he is a playmaker. But sometimes, guys, that makes him get into a little bit of trouble. I've seen him, and we'll go over some plays here in the All-22, but his decision-making sometimes is just not the best. He'll roll out, throw across his body, and, end up throwing, very risky balls that are sometimes turnovers. And I will also say Cam Ward's a fifth-year breakout, guys. He was, I think, a 1-star or even 0-star recruit coming out of high school. He was not highly touted at all coming out of high school. Played at Incarnate Ward for a couple years. Did pretty solid there. Then he went to Washington State, and now his final season was at Miami, where he really lit it up. So, yeah. What are your thoughts on Cam Ward?
Well, it was interesting watching. I'm a big college football aficionado, and I was kind of waiting for Miami to kind of take that step back and always kind of fumble the ball. And what I mean by fumble the ball, like, for example, the game against Cal. I mean, Cal went out there. It was in Berkeley, and Miami got down big in the first half. And I'm convinced Cam Ward willed them to win. I don't care what level of football it is, winning on the road, especially when you're going across the United States from Miami to the West Coast. For him to pull that off was nothing short of insurmountable. It seemed like he was carrying the team this season. Interesting you talk about smaller schools from Incarnate Word and moving to Wazoo. I kind of like when you quarterback, if he's starting at a smaller college like that, he's working his way up. That gives me more faith in trying to draft somebody like that, because he's showing that he can handle the level of increased competition, right? He's not facing Division II players anymore. It's kind of like the Jaden Daniels argument. He started out here in Phoenix and Arizona State and left and went to the SEC and went to LSU and was playing in the best conference in football. I'm sorry, Big Ten folks. I'm just going to be biased. Like, the SEC won all these championships. I know what Iowa State did last year, but I'm going to call a spade a spade. And Jaden Daniels had success. He beat Alabama in overtime, wins the Heisman Trophy, goes to the NFL, second pick of the draft, goes to the NFC Championship game. Quarterback play had a lot to do with the Commanders turning it around. Now, I don't think that Cam Ward's on that level. I mean, because Cam Ward's not really a dual threat from what I can see. He seems to be your prototypical quarterback, which is what a lot of coaches in the NFL want. I think the Titans were smart to get somebody. I mean, they tried the Will Levis experiment last year, and of course, he became a meme in those first few games. I mean, they did choke that game against Chicago in week 1, and Green Bay steamrolled them, and they just never got the pieces together. Treylon Burks was hurt all season. But I think they knew that Will Levis wasn't their guy. I mean, they benched him a couple times and still ended up playing him. Total train wreck last year, the Tennessee Titans. But I can absolutely see why they want somebody like Cam, who's done it, who's big. Doesn't have those question marks of height like people have about Kyler Murray and Bryce Young. Even though I'm not personally, for me, as far as your height goes, I'm really indifferent on that. If you can play football, you can play. And I do think, like I said, I do think the Titans made the right choice here. And how about you show us a couple good plays that Cam made?
Yep, absolutely. So coming off right off the rip here, we got a 5-wide play versus, I believe this is South Carolina. This is Louisville, I think. He's basically, I'm not even going to show the play. I mean, not even draw the route really, but he's throwing this crossing route here. But this is just Cam Ward being Cam Ward, guys. You just see none of his routes are really open, and he just stands in the pocket, doesn't get anything going, scrambles out, and just throws an absolute dot to the back left pylon of the end zone. This is a different angle here, just to kind of show you his footwork in the pocket. Also very smart quarterback. He really knows how to read coverages as well. That's something that a lot of quarterbacks in college, they don't really understand audibles and things like that. Look at that. Off, flips his hips, throws an absolute beauty. Let's get one more look at that throw. Boom. Absolute dot to the back corner of the end zone. Here's another play here. This is really, it looks like it's going to be a tough play from Cam Ward because he almost falls backwards here, guys. Almost falls down, scrambles away from a sack here, throws on the run, in between two defenders here, and gets another touchdown. Like I said, this versus Georgia Tech. I know Georgia Tech people aren't really high on, but they were ranked at one point last year because their defense was so good. And, you know, you got the guy in motion here, and his first read's not open, and he pumps it twice, actually, and then looks, you know, he's going through his progressions, guys. That's very important. Almost falls backwards. That's not a great look. But gets away, recovers, and then throws it right here with anticipation, guys. That's what we love to see. On the run, anticipation throw in between two defenders. Yeah, it's a little bit of a hospital pass slightly, but still catches it. Perfect. Now, like I said, guys, he's a playmaker through and through, and he's going to do the absolute most in every single play to get the job done, and sometimes that goes to bite him a little bit. So this is a play. Oh yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna cut you off. So I'm looking here at this formation. Go back to that formation that you were just in, and on the goal line there. So I think one thing about I know this isn't fantasy relevant right here. If you're looking on the screen, we don't have down and distance on the coach's film, but I think that I'm not alone when I say that there are hundreds of thousands of fantasy football or just football fans in general. If you're a Miami fan, or if you had money, and you guys know I do gambling on this spot, and I always put my daily picks up there. But if you're running a 4-wide single, or, you know, if this ain't an inside zone, I'm going to scream, depending on down and distance. Now, if it was a 2-point conversion, it's different. It's 4th down and goal, and you need to have options. That's different. But if it's not a quarterback run, I just get so frustrated with football teams and management and coaching that just simply doesn't try and power the football up the middle. I just had to get that off my chest.
Yeah, especially with a guy like Damian Martinez in the backfield. He's a super talented back. One of my more favorite. He was just right below my top 10 in my rankings, but he was very talented. A lot better with the burst for a power back than you'd expect. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. I will say Georgia Tech is very talented in their trenches, so maybe that kind of had them, you know, off. I don't know exactly what down it is here, but this is Cam Ward just trying to make a play. You see a lot of penetration through the middle here, and Cam Ward's just trying to scramble out like he's done in other plays, doing a little bit too much and causes a fumble that gets picked up by Georgia Tech. They were down in this game too. There's a ton of games this year that they played down, and I'm not going to say it's all on Cam Ward, but he had a lot of fumbles in this particular type of situation where he's just doing a little bit too much, guys. And this is an example of that. So just
full disclosure for the audience, full disclosure. Bobby and I are new as a team, and I did not review any of the tape. So by me saying my rant and then that being the result of that play is absolutely proving my point. It's absolutely proving my point. Like, why would Miami drop? Unless we don't know the down and the distance and things along those sorts. But a negative play in a turnover is absolutely gut-wrenching to your point spreads, and it's gut-wrenching to your quarterback, and it's gut-wrenching in fantasy because now you got a turnover, and depending on the scoring system, you turn potentially 6 points into negative points. It's deeply frustrating when that happens. Go ahead, Bobby.
I will say, though, this linebacker right here is an absolute stud for Georgia Tech. If you guys watched any Georgia Tech football last year, that dude with the neck roll in his pads there, he's an absolute animal. And I think, honestly, I mean, I don't remember the game script for this game very much, but I don't know if they were able to run the football that well with Damian Martinez. I'd have to check his game log for this game, but Georgia Tech's very talented defense. But they just wanted to put the ball in the hands of their quarterback who'd been doing it all year. And this is just the type – and who makes the play? 44. Gets the fumble. Great job by the defender picking that up. And, yeah, very tough play there for Cam Ward. Now, this one, guys, I'll be honest, there's a lot of throws, a lot more throws than I was expecting from Cam Ward, of just him overthrowing defenders and overthrowing receivers, rather. And this is another one of those. This is versus cover 3, and he's just going to be throwing this outside, pretty much go route here by Restrepo. And it's versus cover 3, corner slips, really, and he's got a perfect window to throw this ball. And that's a routine throw you have to make. You have to be able to layer the football over this linebacker and into this bucket right here. And Cam Ward just slightly puts a little bit too much heat on it. And that's just an overall miss. And, guys, that's not just a one-off play that I picked out. This is something that happens a decent amount on film. I mean, you know, with quarterbacks, you're going to see this. But with him, a lot of his plays are from routine, just kind of routine throws like screens and, you know, shorter. He kind of slays in the short to medium areas of the field, but sometimes in the deeper ranges of the field, he just is a little, I mean, you see his base here. He's just a little too hot with the ball coming out, but overall great base here and just kind of overthrows it. And that's pretty much all the film we have for Cam Ward, but we get to go right into it with the next guy in Jackson Dart. So
Jackson Dart is our guy. Well, he's not. I don't want to say if he's our guy, but
he has some good qualities.
Yeah, he does. I'm a Lane Kiffin fan. It's so funny because, like, I'm a Crimson Tide fan, and I love all the SEC coaches. There are none of them that I've really, like, even Auburn coaches, I know Hugh Freeze has a questionable checkered past. The only coach that I've ever really hated was Gus Malzahn. The rest of them, like, I've always liked Coach O, and I like Lane Kiffin and Bobby Petrino, and I even like Jimbo Fisher because these people just have unique personalities. Spurrier, I mean, Beamer over there now. I mean, it's just Kirby Smart, just Sark. I can't think of a coach that I've ever disliked. They've all had unique styles, and it's always made their games enjoyable, even if I'm not wanting them to win sometimes as an Alabama fan. I mean, I know everybody despises Nick Saban, and he's just Hail Satan and all this, but what he did was keep his players focused, and he won championships. But for every Nick Saban, there's a Coach O and Les Miles and guys along that sort to kind of keep things interesting. But Lane Kiffin, I really do like his, his comeback story is pretty good. I mean, he had that falling out of USC, and then he comes to Alabama, runs the offense. I mean, was throwing those dimes to Amari Cooper, which is new. There were clips of him on the sideline just understanding that these were going to be scores. They win a championship. Convinced they would have won the championship again if he didn't take the job at Florida Atlantic. But he's got to do what he's got to do for his family. And that paid off for him in troves, and now he's a top-tier coach and had Ole Miss on the brink of a playoff last year because of a player that you get like Jackson Dart. I mean, Tell us what you like about Jackson Dart.
So Jackson Dart out of Ole Miss, guys, first-round pick. He's 6'2", 223 pounds. Again, very similar build to Cam Ward. Pretty, fine with the size. Like, it's not going to hurt him in any way, in my opinion. And the Giants traded up to get Jackson Dart. And one thing that I really enjoy about Jackson Dart in this landing spot is I wasn't the biggest Jackson Dart guy. because I thought, this was my prediction, I thought he was going to go to a team like the Browns or, another QB needy team off the rip where they were just going to throw this kid to the fire, and he was just going to be another Ole Miss quarterback that was not ready to handle an NFL pro-style offense, and Dart would have struggled mightily if he would have started right away.
So do you like the landing spot under Coach Dable over there?
I love the landing spot. One, because Daboll, he was the offensive coordinator at Buffalo when they drafted Josh Allen. Josh Allen was not pro-ready coming out of Wyoming, and Daboll coached him up, developed him, and now he's an MVP-level quarterback every single year now. With Jackson Dart, he gets to sit behind Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. He gets to sit behind Russell Wilson, more importantly, because they share very similar games with each other. Both have great deep balls. Both are fairly athletic. Both are fairly good at extending the play with their feet, with their legs. So I think he'll learn a lot behind Russell Wilson. Obviously, he's in the twilight of his career. And Jameis Winston hopefully doesn't teach him how to throw interceptions, and it's just a personality in that locker room. But if Russell Wilson does go down, they should, and they really should think about doing this, is starting Jameis, and do not let Jackson Dart see a rep on the field outside of preseason until like week 18.
Yeah, I mean, that's the NFL is an impatient league and an impatient fan base, unfortunately. And, there's a lesson to be learned there. And obviously you see me wearing Packers gear, but did it work? It worked with Aaron Rodgers, and he was a first-round quarterback. Did it work with Jordan Love? He was a first-round quarterback. That still remains to be seen. But I think that there's a lot of rush to try and acclimate these super teams and win on a cheap contract like the 49ers tried to do with Brock Purdy. And I don't really see a stream of success with that happening. I mean, I think Mahomes won it in that window. But other than that, I don't know who else has won it that way. You just need to get your guy and develop your guy. And I think a smart franchise will say, all right, when we're ready to replace the coach and replace the GM, we need to be picking a quarterback in that very first draft. You marry those kinds of concepts together so the GM, the coach, the quarterback are all in accordance with each other and have that same energy and that same vibe. They just don't have to rush it. Now we're going to see with the Titans. I'm fairly certain that Cam Ward's going to be on the field. I don't think that there's any, other way around it. But I agree with what you're saying here. I mean, I don't think he's going to learn from Jameis, so much. Russell Wilson gets a lot of jokes and a lot of memes because of his Subway ads and because of what happened in Denver. I mean, his Danger Witch and all this stuff. And he's got a different type of personality. But to Russ's credit, he's all about business. He is all about business on the field. He doesn't I think he cares about winning. I think he understands how to be a good quarterback. He's past his prime for sure. I think the Giants made the right move, getting their guy. Sometimes you just got to risk it and get your guy and live with the consequences one way or the other.
Yeah.
I mean, Giants fans, Giants fans probably don't have any expectations now because that albatross contract to Daniel Jones is basically going to be paid off this year. And they had a really solid draft. They got Malik Neighbors back there. I think they're going to try out Tyrone Tracy. But I agree with you what you're saying. Jackson Dart shouldn't see the field maybe until, like you said, like week 17 or week 18. Season's over. I don't think Jameis is going to stay on the team. I think that tomorrow's 31st, June 1st stuff is going to happen. And somebody might go grab him, but we'll see. But what can you tell us about Dart's his good stuff and his bad stuff?
So he is 22, so very young prospect. I'll go ahead and go over his stats real quick. 4,200 yards, almost 4,300 passing yards, 29 touchdowns to 6 picks. He's been very efficient, especially in Ole Miss, but he was also efficient fairly with USC as well. And guys, of any quarterback in this class, he probably has the best throws overall on tape. Outside of Kyle McCord, but we're not going to be talking about him today. But great throws on tape, really high, deep, very high production throws down the field, especially on corner routes and stuff, throws with great touch. And like I said, very consistent production, but there's some bads as well. His decision-making at times can be horrendous, especially when he's running with the football. I know Josh Allen, had to learn that the hard way as well, but with his decision-making, he will just run over defenders over and over and get hurt. There was not a single player in college football last year that I saw more with his helmet off than Jackson Dart. I mean, I felt like his helmet was getting popped off 2 or 3 times a game at the minimum. And that's just not something you want in a franchise quarterback because he's not going to be able to stay on the field with those NFL caliber defenders. And he also has very little experience in a pro-style offense. Guys, Ole Miss, they run a lot of one-read plays, hitches, bubble screens, things like that. Very, one-read type of plays. And then they'll throw a shot play in there here and there. And, he also played with some great talent at Ole Miss too, so that kind of knocks him a little bit. But let's go ahead and get into some of the good plays here from Jackson Dart. So let's see. Okay, we're buffering a little bit here. One sec. Okay, here we go. So this is just a beautiful play on a crossing route from, I believe that's Trey Harris. But more importantly, Jackson Dart steps up in the pocket and ends up scoring a touchdown because of it. So this is a better angle of this. So this is something a lot of college quarterbacks, they'll just stay back there like statues. Jackson Dart senses pressure, steps up in the pocket, throws off platform across his body on a wide open crossing route. Yeah, it was wide open, but that's an impressive throw nonetheless.
Sure is.
Next up, so I didn't put his rushing stats in here. His rushing stats weren't a ton. I think it was like 300 or 400 yards, but he had like 8 or 9 touchdowns last year. Ole Miss loves to run with him on these, especially 3rd and short. Since they lost Quinshon Judkins, they kind of had some troubles at the running back position this past year. And this is just a QB draw from Jackson Dart. I play that they ran a ton. They also ran a bunch of QB powers with him. Very efficient because they're so scared. This is versus Wake Forest, but very scared of the passing game. He was lighting them up. But there's a negative there. You see what he did. He's got 4 defenders in front of him. What's he do? He puts the shoulder down. Ends up getting a touchdown because of it. It kind of showcases his power as a runner, and I think the Giants aren't really going to be into that as much. I think they'll use him kind of similarly to how they did Daniel Jones, who was also kind of a sneaky athlete coming out of Duke. But, yeah, a 3-man front here from Wake Forest, and he just runs through that linebacker and just – that's an impressive run from Jackson Dart, all things considered, but definitely would love to just take the first down and live to fight another day, man, because he takes hits like that all the time.
Well, those guys learn when they go to the second level. But I think a lot of quarterbacks that do something like that sometimes, if it results in a touchdown, I think everybody's going to live with it. And it also depends on, for the record, it depends on what's the circumstance in the game. Like, do they need that to win? Everybody needs touchdowns and things along that sort. I don't think you're going to see the New York Giants call a quarterback draw very often like that. That is a Lane Kiffin staple to – because when you spread it out, like even if you look at the formation on the screen, you're spread out like that. It's not like the Tennessee offense where they're ridiculously wide spreads on the sidelines and you're trying to run it up the middle because you're forced to defend the outside like that. But in that case, on that previous play, I think that quarterbacks need to be commended for doing that. But I hear what you're saying about you being a first-round pick. We want to protect you from injury and things along those sorts. I would suspect they're going to give the ball to Cam Scatterboo. Let him do the dirty work for the New York Giants. That might be why they drafted him. They're like, look, we need a bruiser to go complement Tyrone Tracy out there, and you get in those short yardage situations. But, when you're younger, I think you can kind of do that a little bit. But in the NFL, you will get your welcome moment for sure.
Yeah. Try that versus like Derwin James or a Roquan Smith or somebody like that and see how it goes. It's not going to end well for you. So hopefully Dart can get that coached up by Dayball. And I love Dayball as a head coach. I love his, offensive mind when it comes to offenses. I mean, he took Daniel Jones to the playoffs that one year where, they ran him a bunch. It was a very interesting offense. But Dayball has done a lot with that franchise. So I can't wait to see what he does with Jackson Dart, presumably in 2026. So with this play also against Wake Forest, this is just Jackson Dart doing a little too much. And I'll be honest, guys, he does this kind of the same thing with Cam Ward, where if he scrambles out of the pocket, he just kind of tries to make plays. And this is one of those instances of that. So first read's not open. I think he's looking at that out route. Not open. Scrambles outside of the pocket here, guys. Throws off platform. Just doesn't put enough on this ball, and the defender actually cuts the route, and it is an interception. So here's another route here, another look at this play. So he's looking to run. That's another thing that Dart is kind of guilty of. He's very scramble happy, guys. He loves to leave clean pockets. This was a pretty clean pocket, guys. I'm not going to lie. And he leaves it anyways. I mean, there's a clear pocket in here where he can step up in. But he wants to leave. So he leaves, lets rushers get to him. And he just really doesn't put enough on this throw. He really can't beam it like he wants. And honestly, the route wasn't really that open anyways. And it's a pretty easy pick for the linebacker. So this next play here, guys, is one of the reasons that you need to slide as a quarterback. So this is kind of an all hitches concept from Lane Kiffin. That's something that he runs all the time. And he rolls out of the pocket and kind of runs. And instead of going out of bounds here, guys, instead of going out of bounds like you really need to do as a quarterback, he instead tries to spin out of the play, and ball comes out, picked up. Very poor decision here. I think this is against Kansas. Yeah. And instead of running out of bounds like he easily could have, he spins, easy turnover for the defense. Very tough look here for Jackson Dart. That's something he's going to have to go out of bounds. I mean, I'll say it 100 more times. That has to happen at the next level. Take your yardage, go out of bounds, because that's versus Kansas. No slight to Kansas because they're a good football team. But versus an NFL corner or, God forbid, a safety, you're going to get destroyed at the NFL level. So you cannot do this. He's going to have to clean that up, because I guarantee you Lane Kiffin is just screaming at him on the sideline right now.
Well, when you cause a turnover, it's such a big deal. I mean, you got to protect yourself as a quarterback, and they might get flags in the NFL and stuff like that. But he's not taking the ball and sliding down like you do in the NFL. He's trying, and I think that stuff is coachable. But protecting the football is a must. Like you hinder the entire organization when you don't protect the football. Yep. And you're just going to give it, and especially if another team just takes the ball and goes right down the field and scores. It's such a critical thing. I'm going to put a little touch of sports betting on that. You're taking points off the board. I mean, they look like they were in field goal range right there. At least you're taking 3 points off the board, let alone anything else. You can be burning the clock. You've got to be better at decision-making. But that stuff I think is coachable. I mean, like you said, can you just imagine, a safety just coming down and laying into him? Because they want to. Brian Branch would knock him into next year if he saw him running at him in the Detroit Lions, just blast him, But I think those things, like I said, those things can be worked out. I mean, Dable will work it out of them. I don't think coaches have, in the NFL especially, have less tolerance for, holding onto the football. I mean, if you look at Ramondre Stevenson, he fumbled it 7 times last year, and he's a running back. So when you turn the ball over, you hurt the team in ways. It's the most precious thing. The football is the most precious thing in the game, possession of the football. And if you can get somebody to do something like that, you're trying to do something right. You gain yards, but like you said, he needs to get out of bounds or he needs to slide. You can't be absorbing those big hits. You can't be turning the ball over. You do that, you'll find your way out of football, and the coach will be out of football. So I think that Brian Daboll might have a little bit of an olive branch here getting him going. But, I mean, the Giants haven't had a lot of success, and the fans are going to call for his head. So good stuff on that one.
Yeah, and with Jackson Dart, him doing plays like that is going to have to stop because we know the New York media and the fan base, they are ruthless. They are ruthless over there in New York. And, like you said, good point about turning the ball over, especially putting the football on the ground. We saw guys last year like Dylan Lawbey, who I found very talented out of New Hampshire, very good receiving back, and guys like Carson Steele, who kind of looked like they were both going to be having – a promising rookie season, and they both put the football down on the ground, and their rushing careers were basically over before they even started. So, definitely very, very important. But moving on here to the next guy, a guy that I covered pretty extensively pre-draft, and it's Tyler Shuck out of Louisville. And if you recognize the name, he's been around for a long time, 7 years in college football across multiple organizations. Oregon at first. He didn't start at Oregon, but he played in Oregon with Justin Herbert, guys.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. And he played at Texas Tech for a little bit, and then he finished his collegiate career here in Louisville. And, there's a good bit of stuff, a good bit of stuff to like about Tyler Shuck. He's 6'5", 219 pounds, very, borderline elite stature at the quarterback position. I personally love my tall, prototypical framed quarterbacks like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert, those types of guys. Yeah. And, he was getting a lot of buzz a week before the draft. People were thinking he was going to be like a 4th, 5th round pick, maybe even day 3, slide into day 3. But then his name started to catch up a little bit of buzz, and 2nd round pick by the Saints. Didn't really love the pick, in all honesty, because he's 25 years old and he's had not 1, not 2, but 3 season ending injuries in college. Back-to-back collarbone issues that took him out of the entire season. I think it was a thumb injury or some sort of hand injury in his 3rd season. I forget the exact injury, but he's 25 years old, and, he had a decent year with Louisville last year, 3,100 yards, almost 3,200 passing yards, 23 touchdowns to 6 picks, despite Louisville not having a very good receiving core, guys. I know people like Ja'Cory Brooks. Personally, I was not very high on Ja'Cory Brooks at all, but he's a very smart football player, guys. Very few turnovers on film that are his fault, really. We'll go over a few turnovers that were his fault. And he's got that prototypical size like you love. And he's got some velocity on his throws, guys. He can really hum it into tight windows. But I already went over the multiple injuries. That's a big-time concern. I had the same concern with Michael Penix coming out last year. And he's an older prospect. So, he's already 25. He'll be almost 30 years old, guys, by the time his rookie contract is over. That is absolutely insane to think about. So you only got maybe if this guy's a franchise-level quarterback, you got maybe 8 years of, solid play out of him. With the injuries and the age, I just didn't really think that this was a good pick by the Saints, but we'll go over the film, and there are some things to like about Tyler Shuck.
Yeah, there are some red flags when you start drafting players that old but at that position, you can get longevity. I mean, it just depends on how you play out. Like you said, those injuries are more concerning to me than the older prospect part, but you don't pick older prospects in the 2nd round. That's kind of where your draft capital gets offset. I think the Saints are in a clean house position. I don't think they're ready. I think that this is such a teardown for them with that cap disaster, and they've got a very old roster. I mean, Alvin Kamara's getting up there. They just, Derek Carr retired. I think he retired to do them a favor, to help with that cap structure. I do think he did that. But I think that the Saints weren't thinking franchise quarterback in this situation. You don't take your franchise quarterback generally in the 2nd round. And for some reason, I think that they were turned off by Shedeur Sanders. I think Shedeur would have been a better value here than Tyler. And like you said, it's because injuries more than anything. I mean, is a dude made of glass or is he made of steel? And injuries are kind of, the one thing, it's kind of a freak thing. I'd rather him have collarbone injuries than leg injuries, like Jonathan Brooks, for example, who's just got but he's 21. To be fair, Tyler Shuck's 25. I mean, maybe he goes in there and just does what they ask him to do. We don't know what kind of offense they're going to run. Is there going to be run-heavy offense, and he could just be like Jimmy Garoppolo? I mean, the Saints could either be playing a different kind of chess that we're not used to. I'm not going to say 3D chess, but I think that this pick for this player is to kind of tell Saints fans, we're punting on the season. We're probably punting on next season. We know it's a wreck, but we've got a clean house, and we're going to give you something that may or may not pan out. And the worst case scenario is we're out a second-round pick. Because it's not like they're contenders, like we use the term in fantasy. This is not going to be a contending football team. I know they started out 2-0 last year and was scoring all those points like crazy, and then reality set in. I don't think that I think that entire organization, I don't have the contracts in front of me, but I think that entire organization is on notice. And I think that they're going to let those expensive older players walk. I actually think next season, if Kamara's never had a 1,000-yard season, amazingly. But if he did hit that this year, I think that his trade value would be high to a contender and can try and acclimate picks for the next year's draft. So that's my take on why they picked Shuck. He may be a great locker room guy, and he may go in there and do, like you said, and throw darts and play very well. He's a big guy. He protects the football. And honestly, the game of football, I know I'm going to preach it just like a preacher at the pulpit about protecting the football at all costs. He doesn't really, I don't see any sloppiness with his game. So the Saints are in a low-risk, high-reward situation with this pick. The worst thing that they lose is the draft capital, but who really – there's less media scrutiny for fumbling a second-round pick than a first-round pick, if that makes sense. That's how I view this. That's how I was viewing the Saints when they did this. Maybe they go after Kirk Cousins on the first. And then that's kind of the thing, though, but I don't think they can afford him. And I know Rodgers isn't going to be on there. So I don't know what's left. Let's take a look at what he does.
Yeah, I will say one more thing about Tyler Shuck. So, Kellen Moore, the OC for the Eagles, definitely likes to run the ball a bunch. And I think, they drafted a guy in Devin Neal, and they have Kendre Miller and Alvin Kamara, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if they pick up a guy like Nick Chubb in free agency. So Tyler Shuck, very good comp that you gave in Jimmy Garoppolo. I could definitely see him having something like that. I could see him doing something like an Alex Smith type of, Kansas City Alex Smith. I could see something like that as well. So we'll definitely have to see. With Spencer Rattler, a guy that, I do think shows some high-level throws on film, he's just too much of a gunslinger for Kellen Moore, I think, and that's why they went out and grabbed Tyler Shuck here. So let's go ahead and look at the first play from Tyler Shuck. So I want to say, yes, this is a Ja'Cory Brooks bomb right in between. So this isn't just a typical deep ball here, guys. So yes, Ja'Cory Brooks is just running a go route, but it's all about ball placement here with Tyler Shuck. So you see there's an area right here where he can throw it, but you see the safety is already playing that. So where does he put the ball? Back shoulder throw. Beautiful back shoulder throw from Tyler Shuck to Ja'Cory Brooks. He was his main target last year. We'll probably see a couple plays from Ja'Cory Brooks here on film. But very solid mechanics as well. Now, if you watch that one game that one throw at the combine from Tyler Shuck where it looks really weird and he throws the ball like really wide to the right on a crossing route, on a shallow cross, he's got a weird release, guys.
Yeah, they've memed that.
Yeah.
They're memeing it because they're like, the Saints took this guy like up in arms. And
yeah, exactly. And with that weird release comes really quick throws. And it works for him, guys. I don't know if it's because of the collarbone issue that he had that he throws this way, but super quick release, back shoulder throw, puts it right where nobody can get it but Ja'Cory Brooks. That's a beautiful, high-level NFL throw there.
That's a great play. That's just a great football play right there. I mean, the way that he beats the secondary there, that's a good throw. I hadn't seen that one. That's a good play.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of really good throws on tape with Tyler Shuck. And low-key, he's not the worst athlete either. I thought a guy that was that old, prototypical pocket quarterback Tyler Shuck is, he can get out and move and scramble for yardage from time to time. I'm not saying he's going to be like a 400-yard guy, but in that kind of Dak Prescott-y range, maybe 200, 220 a year, something like that. He's a big guy, and he ran, I think, a 4.7 40 as well, which is very, very good at the quarterback position. So Tyler Shuck here. This is a very impressive throw here. So you got your Corey Brooks again coming on this deep post, but you see a safety here, and you see a guy. So you can't throw the back shoulder here. So what does Tyler Shuck do? Well, Ja'Cory Brooks is pretty smart in this situation. He sits down, and Tyler Shuck just throws an absolute dart in between the two defenders. Nice. This is something that Tyler Shuck does from time to time. It does get him in some trouble. We'll go over those plays in a minute. But look at the velocity on this ball.
Yeah.
Boom.
That's what you want. You want to be able to throw that hard, accurate.
Yeah. You know, and he layered it too.
People forget football too it's a game of in yards. You don't need to necessarily throw those deep Joe Milton. I mean, even if you throw that stuff accurately, I personally am of the train of thought that if you can make a throw like that, that's really kind of what a quarterback does 90% of the time. Yep. I mean, do they need to be able to throw the deep ball? Absolutely, right? But he knew, and to the receiver's credit, former Alabama receiver, but there was a reason he entered the portal. But to his credit, throws a dart right in the middle of the field, gets the score. I mean, that's an absolutely productive football play. I know coaches are doing flips about it because you're doing your job. That ball was never in harm's way. You locked in. You didn't screw around. You weren't cute with it. Just get the job done. Bang. So yep. I like that he can make those. I think that a quarterback needs to be able to throw, 60 yards. But the criticism with that, I'd rather you be accurate. And again, I'm really not being biased when I say this, but people they never believe me when I say this, but I'm a big Tua fan, and a lot of people say he's got a noodle arm and can't do this and can't do that, and he's the most scrutinized quarterback I've ever seen. But I'll never forget when Alabama has their A-Day every year, and when he went out there, the first time I ever saw him throw football was in that game, and it just looked like that. It didn't have to be 100 miles an hour, even though that throw was pretty hard and right to the point. Mm-hmm. But the accuracy is everything. And if your accuracy is on point, your receivers are going to be able to get to the ball, and the yaks just going to go through the roof. That's why Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are just absolutely able to rack up your fantasy points because to his accuracy. He doesn't need to throw it 70 yards down the field. Even if you got a guy like Tyreek who can go get it, Jalen Waddle, those guys can burn. When they're healthy, they can go down there and get the ball like nobody's business. I just really like that throw, and that's what it made me think of just how critical when it comes to quarterback play, not necessarily fantasy play, but quarterback play. Having those elite throws, they don't have to be pretty on tape. They just got to get the job done, get the first down, get the ball moving, win the football game at all costs. Win the football game.
Yeah, and that's something with Tyler Shuck. I'm going to be honest. These are two of the two plays that we're going to be going over are two of his interceptions, but It was really hard, guys, to find bad throws on tape with him because if the deep shot wasn't there, check down.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Check down merchant, but he loves to throw it underneath, and his accuracy in the short areas of the field, very good. And that, in my opinion, I know I'm showing you guys the deep throws on tape because those are more impressive. But he feasts in the short to intermediate areas of the field. We'll go over a guy later on in this live that does the same thing. But that is the most important thing. Throwing short, throwing medium, and can you throw with touch and anticipation? To your point, Tua Tagovailoa, in my opinion, probably has the best anticipatory throws in the entire NFL, and that's why he was partially so successful at the NFL level when healthy, right? So this is a play from Tyler Shuck. This is just him. You saw the second play where he really fits it in there in between two defenders, and he likes to fall in love with his arm a little bit sometimes, and this is no exception. throws it deep. He thinks he has it. Let me show this one more time. So he sees the safety playing the outside here. That's what Tyler Shough sees. He sees the safety kind of playing this route here, right? So he thinks, oh, well, I got the post over the middle, right? Safety fools him, flips his hips, reads the eyes of the quarterback. Very good play from the safety from Virginia. Virginia. Yeah, this is just Virginia, not Virginia Tech. And puts the ball in harm's way here and ends up getting an interception, unfortunately. And this is just, I mean, he is a 7-year player. He didn't really start all that much. Okay, he started a little bit at Texas Tech, but every time he saw a significant amount of starts, he got hurt. So, this is just reps. He just gets fooled by the safety and throws it into double coverage. Great play by 30. I mean, that was a beautiful play by the safety. I'll show this play one more time here. Safety flips his hips.
Sometimes you just kind of get fooled too.
Yep.
I mean, when he throws that football, like maybe sometimes just a great play happens. And like you said, you really had to take your time to find poor decision making on his behalf.
It was tough.
It just happens. It's football. Football happens, man.
Yeah. It was a phenomenal play by 30. I don't know who that is, but he just read the eyes of the quarterback. And Shough also, he was looking kind of at the goalpost really, and just, doesn't really look at number 1 here or number 5. And safety just doesn't bite at all on the eyes of the quarterback. Very beautiful play. And this one's a very similar play, guys. And this is something that you'll see over and over on film, guys. You see this receiver. So you basically got trip verticals for the most part. And then you got this underneath route that's just going to be wide open. And Shough doesn't take it. 9 times out of 10, guys, he takes this. I mean, look at this guy. He is absolutely butt naked open. But instead, what does Shough do? He throws that same throw that I told you guys in the first play, and just doesn't really layer it like he wants to. Clean pocket as well. Does the safety get him again? No, not really. But just puts the ball in harm's way again, and you see the receiver here, arms up in the air, like, come on, man, I was wide open, and he's right.
Yeah.
He's like, I got at least 15 yards there, and
easy.
He puts the ball in harm's way, and this is just kind of a poor rep from Tyler Shough, really. But like I said, 9 times out of 10, he's throwing that check down all day. But thinks he can put it in there. Safety gets in on it, and tough rep from Shough. But like I said, guys, very few and far between when he does that. That was 2 of his 4 interceptions on the season. So
sometimes, though, I think what a quarterback has to do is they got to understand. What they have to do is keep the defense honest by throwing those deep passes, even if, I know I preach about protecting football, and that's an unfortunate play that happened there. But I think that as a quarterback, what they try to do, or even the coaches are like, look, we're just going to rip it here, because then the defense is just going to creep up and you won't be able to run the ball and everything will get covered. Now, in that play, it wouldn't have been covered as we saw in the film. The defense went and covered it anyway. But I think that's what happens sometimes with quarterbacks. You have to keep the defense honest. That's why, you can't just pass the ball 100 times in a football game, because they're just going to put 7 guys in coverage and just rush 4. If you run the football effectively, they have to adjust to what you're doing. Good stuff on.
Yeah, great film all around. Great film all around from him. But next guy, another guy that I had a tough time finding bad film on, and that's Dylan Gabriel of Oregon. So 5'11", 205 pounds. He's a 3rd-round pick. Notably was picked 2 rounds higher than Shadir Sanders, who we'll talk about here in a moment. 24 years old. He is a 5th-year senior. And, man, he's been one of the most consistent quarterbacks in terms of winning and production at the college football level over the past 5 years. And this past year took them deep into the college football playoffs, 3,800 yards, 30 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Notably holds the record in college football history with the most passing touchdowns of any player in the history of college football. Very notable because he started out as a true freshman and played very consistently all throughout his career at 3 different schools, UCF, Oklahoma, and Oregon in his final season. And very consistent production, very quick processor as well. He is the master of an RPO offense, and I know RPO offenses aren't really that prominent in the NFL, but it just goes to show you he has to make multiple decisions in that Oregon offense in a very quick amount of time. So, yeah, and he was very consistent at making the right reads in that RPO offense, and I think there's some value in that because he can process the play, process the defense quicker than a lot of these other quarterbacks in this class. But I want to go back to something. He's 5'11", 205 pounds, and I honestly think they gave him an inch. I think he's really 5'10 and a half, if I want to be generous to him. Look, I told you guys I love my prototypical size 6'5", 6'6 quarterbacks. There's just been a horrendous hit rate with quarterbacks that are under 6 foot tall. Kyler Murray has an issue seeing over his gigantic offensive linemen at all times, right? That's why he scrambles outside of the pocket so much. Bryce Young struggled with it as well. Thankfully, he's kind of coming on down the stretch here last year, so hopefully he can pick up that production and keep going with that. And then, really the only short type of quarterback, I know people say Drew Brees was 6 foot, but I really think he was in that 5'11 range, especially towards the end of his career. He was like the only notable guy, in my opinion, that was really consistent at that height. And, yeah, I think Dillon Gabriel's going to struggle a little bit, but there's a lot of things to like about him. But the arm talent, it's a little meh for me, guys. He doesn't really – if he tries to throw a football 40 yards downfield, he really doesn't have that zip that a guy like Tyler Shuck or Jackson Dart has. It's just slightly less, where if he tries to really put a football 40 yards downfield into a tight window, it's probably getting picked off or knocked away. So that's one limitation to Dillon Gabriel. But overall, very solid player here, and I'm very excited to talk about it.
Okay. Let's go right into the film.
Let's go right into it. So, first play here. This is just a beautiful, and like I said, I said he didn't have the best arm, but this is pretty much a go route outside in the bucket. So, outside release, and then down the sideline, just beat this corner. That's the only thing this this wide receiver is trying to do. I think that's Evan Stewart, very talented receiver.
Yes.
Vertical threat, very talented guy. And Dillon Gabriel just puts it down. Look at the fight from Evan Stewart. Jeez Louise, he gets like 15 extra yards there. Also, yeah. Jordan James here. Shout out Jordan James. He's incredible as well. Boom. Just throws it down there. It hangs up there a little bit. And that's something that you don't like that much, but still puts it in where he needs to. And Evan Stewart just, wow, 10, 15 extra yards after the catch. And I want to say this is a crossing route, if I remember correctly.
That's the Ohio State game, right?
Yes, it is the Ohio State game. So you got this
top-tier competition.
Yeah,
national champ.
Oh, so this is, I want to say Tez Johnson's coming on a streak here. And this is something that we call, if you've played football, this is called dagger. Basically have a vertical route down the field, clearing out this safety here. And then theoretically, you have a dagger from this outside receiver, and you'll have plenty of room in this area of the field. So very typical concept in college football, high school football, even the NFL. And then, boom. Throws it right on time with a little bit of anticipation as well. Steps up in the pocket. Pumps as well to kind of... So, pumps to make that safety bite on the outside. And then, boom. Throws it. Throws kind of a heater, in all honesty. I know I said he didn't have the best arm, but that's with a defender on his back, too. Feels the pressure, gets it out there. Great play. Is that Evan Stewart again? I think that's Evan Stewart again. little bit of highlight reel from Evan Stewart. Shout out.
He's quarterbacks trusting his players to make plays, and these are downfield plays. Oh, look at that. These are downfield plays that you want to see in the NFL. Like, there's a reason he got picked. He's got also, all those reps when you've got that extra time at quarterback, like we saw with Bo Nix. Again, it's the only position where I'm, we talk about fantasy purposes on this all-22 is, for me, for quarterbacks specifically, I'll give them a lot more grace than I will a skill player, especially offensively, running back, wide receiver. In my opinion, if you're an early declare, you're my guy. I know I may be showing my hand a little bit of strategy there, but it also depends how old you are as a senior. If you're 22, I'm okay with it, but once you get past that, for me, for skill players, then you're kind of just going to get a little more flat. But quarterbacks, you can have long careers, like we talked about with Tyler Shuck. Could be the same thing here, but this is a better team. He's doing it at a higher level than what's going on in the ACC at Louisville. I mean, Oregon was undefeated. I mean, they did get bounced in the first round of their playoff game, but nonetheless, they did have a fantastic season with Dan lining up there and winning the Big Ten. So great job with them.
Yep. So I want to say this is a fumble from Dylan Gabriel, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So this is they do look. I didn't tell you guys about the athleticism from Dylan Gabriel, but he's a fairly decent athlete. And in college football, your quarterbacks are going to run. If you're slightly athletic, you're going to be running the football. That's just how college football is in the majority of these college football offenses. And this is just a end around touch pass to a fake touch pass, and then he's going on this QB power type of play, and he just really puts the football on the ground. And Penn State, Dylan Gabriel actually recovers his own fumble. Like I said, guys, very hard to find plays in the Oregon offense that are bad because most of them are just bubble screens, things like that, screen passes, hitches, things like that. It's hard to find plays of him throwing downfield consistently, which is a slight knock on him, but he does end up picking up the fumble. But, yeah, got to protect the football, right? We've been preaching it all stream. Got to protect the football here.
Luckily, he gets it back.
Yeah, gets it back. Abdul Carter almost hops on it. Shout out Abdul Carter.
This looks like that looked like the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah, versus Penn State. You're correct. So this last play is pretty tough. They were destroying UCLA, but this is a tough read from Dylan Gabriel here. And not entirely his fault. Tez Johnson's going to be kind of running this whip route here. And he ends up falling down. But Tez Johnson, fantastic receiver. If you guys want to watch some highlights, Tez Johnson's fantastic. He's just super small. Or I had the whip route backwards, but he ends up working back to the football, and he just falls down. And even if, I'll be honest, guys, even if he doesn't fall, this is bagged. I mean, he just kind of rushes the football out, and he tries to get the play down, ends up getting pancaked by a defensive tackle, a one tech, I believe that's who that is. And they run it all the way back for a touchdown. I will say this game was over by the time this play happened, but still, you don't want to have this on your tape at all. And like I said, even if he didn't fall to the ground, that probably results in the same sort of play. Maybe it's not picked if Tez doesn't fall down, but maybe it's not a pick six, rather, but it would be a pick, I think, regardless. And that's just a tough play overall from Dylan Gabriel. Gotta read the field a little bit better than that. That's probably one of his worst interceptions. I will note, guys, he's never thrown more than 7 picks in an entire season throughout his 5 years into football. So very, very good at keeping the ball out of harm's way for the most part. This is just a one-off. Don't expect this to happen very much at the NFL level if he starts a significant amount. But
and NFL players, NFL coaching staffs, and GMs want you to protect that football. So, I'm curious to see what happens there in Cleveland.
So next guy, one of your guys. I know you're a Bama fan. Got the logo a little messed up here, but no matter. I know where he was drafted. We know where he was drafted. Jalen Milrose up next. 6'2", 217 pounds, can absolutely fly, guys. There's a lot of really good tape with Jalen Milroe, and I'm going to show you guys. And there's a lot of frustrating Milroe tape as well. But
there is? Are you sure?
There's some frustrating tape with him for sure. It's very polarizing prospect.
I didn't speak too much on Dylan Gabriel. I didn't catch a whole lot of Oregon football last season, but I've caught every Crimson Tide game, and I'll tell you, before the season, I placed a wager on him to win the Heisman, Jalen Milroe to win the Heisman. I thought for sure that after that Michigan game in the the Rose Bowl, with the season ending the way it did, and him sticking around for Alabama, he deserves all the credit for that when everybody else just split town. Alabama lost Caleb Downs, and they lost Seth McLaughlin, and they lost Isaiah Bond. Yeah, I was going to get to that. And they lost their 5-star quarterback prospect in Julian Sayin. So the team was decimated with that extra transfer portal, but he stuck it out, and I think, rallied the troops to stick around. And that's why when everybody dogpiles in Alabama, I think it's unwarranted because of that situation. Had that been any other new coach at any other school, I don't think that they'd have the same kind of pressure to win that they do at Alabama. Nope. It's not like, just trying to think off the top of my head. It's not like if Lane Kiffin went to Ole Miss, somebody would go in there and expect Ole Miss to win the SEC like we did here.
Yep.
But Jalen Milroe, has his credits and things I could speak on. Undefeated against Georgia. I don't know if we're going to see the clip or not, but there is one play in the Georgia game in the first one. Well, I'm sorry. I played one time. The linebacker's coming untouched against Milroe, and Milroe just sidesteps him like it's nothing. I've never seen a quarterback do that in my life. Every other quarterback just ends up on the ground. And Milroe takes it through the gap and takes it for a touchdown. And in that game, in the Georgia game, he was cooking Malachi Starks. Made that man's life a living hell. I don't know if we're going to see it or not. I'm just, prerequisite that with what his upside is so high and his downside is so frustrating that for me, he's such a hard prospect to see what he's going to do at the second level. In the Dynasty leagues that I have shares of Jalen Milroe because I've seen him when he came in off the bench and can get those extra rushing yards. He can have a game where it's going to be tough for NFL defenses to do like they do with Lamar, because if he takes off, it's a game over. He can likely run score, and he's big, so he's not going to fall down like Jackson Dart, and he doesn't, he has some issues holding on to the ball if you sack him, but as far as like when he runs with the ball, you're not going to take it out of his hands. So I'm interested to see what this is going to be. Like it says there, elite rushing upside. The deep ball, yeah, he had some regression like it says here, but he can throw it 65 yards on the money, down the field. That's what makes this guy so dangerous. If he had an intermediate and a short game, he could have easily been number 1 overall, in my opinion. And Alabama had that. Alabama haters and SEC haters and everybody else just like 24-3 Oklahoma. Well, he did have a bad game against Oklahoma, but there were a couple other factors that go into play that nobody wants to talk about.
Sure.
But
for sure,
let's see what Bobby's got on film.
And definitely, I do have an Oklahoma clip in this package here that we'll go over, and I will give a little bit because I watched that. I pretty much watched every throw of Jalen Milroe and picked out some of these. So, like I said, 6'2", 217. He's a third-round pick, and I know the Seattle Seahawks logo is not here, but he does go to the Seattle Seahawks. Why do I love that? Because Jalen Milroe is not a polished prospect. He's not. He's a 2-year starter. He started a little bit in his sophomore season. Not much, but just a little bit. And, guys, I love that he's starting behind Sam Darnold and Drew Lock. Those guys are, regardless of what you think about those two players, they're veterans. They've both started a countless amount of games in the NFL. And they'll be able to show Milroe the ropes a little bit. And he can get coached up for a season. He might need 2 seasons, guys. He might be like a little bit of Malik Willis-y type where he needs a couple years. We saw Malik Willis really shine last year when Love went down in his absence. So, I think if Jalen Milroe can get his accuracy issues down pat in the short to intermediate game and get some of his mechanics polished, he has the highest upside of any quarterback in this draft class, and it's not particularly close. He's also only 22 years old, guys. He's still got 3 years before he's on the same age as Tyler Shuck coming out as a prospect, so he's very, very high upside. Now, if you look at the stats here, I don't have his rushing stats, but I do know them kind of offhand. 2024, he threw for 2,800 passing yards, obviously not a lot. 16 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. That's not good also. But he did about 800 yards on the ground and 20. You heard me right, guys. 20 rushing touchdowns. That's absolutely insane. We'll see a couple of those on film also. Like I said, elite rushing upside. You do not rush for 20 touchdowns as a quarterback pretty much ever. And he did it.
Unless your name is Jalen and you go to a school called Alabama.
Yeah.
Then it might hurt your Milroe.
Yeah, for sure. Very rare for a quarterback to have that type of rushing upside. And he's got a solid deep ball. It's not always on the money, but for the most part, it's pretty solid in the deep areas of the field. But not so much in the short or intermediate games. I saw him routinely overthrow or underthrow in terms of his ball placement on like shallow crossers and things like that, which very much frustrating, right? Those should be gimme throws, even at the college level for most quarterbacks. And he just can't really get it down. He's got a big arm, so kind of have a little Anthony Richardson there where he doesn't have full control over his arm. And he regressed in 2024. Like I said, to his credit, he had a very stellar season as a junior, and he came back anyways because he, wanted to win a championship with Alabama. He wanted to perhaps win a Heisman even as well, and it just didn't really go the way that he wanted to. He had some flashes, but also kind of showed some holes in his game as well, and we'll go over those right now. So, love Milroe as a prospect, though. So, this is just flat-out QB power. You guys ran Milroe a lot more than I thought. I thought he was going to just be scrambling on passing plays. Y'all had routine design quarterback runs a lot more than I thought. And this is just play-action QB power. And I want you guys to pay attention to the burst and explosiveness from Jalen Milroe. This is LSU. This isn't just some random, MAC school or Mountain West school. This is LSU, an elite level SEC team. Say what you want about them, but they are they're surrounded with talent every single year. Look at this burst. Cuts inside, but this is the part I really look at him run away from the entire defense. We'll get a better look here at some of the cuts that he has. This is ridiculous, guys. Follows his blocks really well. Play action, the fake to the running back isn't the best, but, that's just nitpicking here. Look at the cut. Follows the leverage on his blockers. That's a running back level cut there, guys. Uh-oh. Let me come back here a little bit. Yeah.
It's funny because, like, you were talking about Milroe running the ball. Alabama ran quarterback power quite a bit. And mind you, on that highlight you showed, that's at Death Valley at night where everybody's supposed to be scared of LSU.
Yeah. I mean, look at this. This is running back level cut here. Running back 101. Follows his blockers. This QB power, so, most of the time you're going to be running this to the outside, kind of following your blockers. But that edge defender really didn't get as much depth as you wanted, and you'd like the running back to be up the field a little bit more, blocking 14 here to really, beat it to the outside to the sideline. Didn't really work out this play. So Jalen Milroe is going to take
I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. LSU defended that correctly. Most quarterbacks aren't going to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're entirely right. Your quarterbacks usually are going to put their shoulder down and get as much yards as you can because they don't have this nasty cut in them like Milroe does. And specifically, look, two's kind of got the angle here. 40, if Jalen Milroe's not a super athlete in terms of speed, 40's got to play here. But it doesn't matter. Look, boom, completely just runs past the guys, and it's just a free touchdown. We could look at so many of these rushing touchdowns, and from a couple of birdies from the Seahawks organization, I hear they're going to be using some Jalen Milroe on the goal line this year. Take Sam Darnold out of the game, put Jalen Milroe in inside the 5-yard line. So expect that in some packages next year. So I wouldn't be surprised if Jalen Milroe has 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns in, basically no starting games. So
Hear that, bettors? You're getting exclusive breaking insider stuff that Ian Rappaport doesn't even have here on ALL-22 Dynasty Football Show. Episode 1, please like and subscribe as my man Bobby Big Boys here is breaking it down. I'm the most frustrating quarterback prospect in Alabama history, but I do love me some Jalen Milroe. So let's just keep on going. Oh, here's the Georgia game.
Yeah, here's the Georgia game. And look, there's a good bit of good throws here. But man, look, in the NFL, this is a hard throw to make, and it's something that quarterbacks routinely miss. It's really frustrating. So basically what you're going to have here is your running back here on a wheel route.
Jam Miller. That's Jam Miller.
And 9 times out of 10, you're going to have this linebacker here or a corner. So most of the time, it's going to be a linebacker on your running back, unless they're in like a dime package. And in this case, it's not, because you can't run dime versus Alabama because they'll just run the ball with Milroe over and over on your face. So they're in their base defense here and really crowding the line of scrimmage. Definitely a hot route. This is kind of a pseudo hot route too. They bring the pressure, and you see number 3. I want to say this is Walker. He got drafted in the first round this past year, but doesn't have the speed that a running back has regardless. Look at it. Drops it in the bucket, back turned from the linebacker, and just throws it in the bucket. This is a play that I see quarterbacks in the NFL miss all the time. I don't know why quarterbacks just can't make this wheel route throw, but they're routinely open. And this is a very good defense from 3. Even gets the tackle at the end, but doesn't matter.
I just got to add, last year in the SEC championship game, Alabama basically won the game on a wheel route. For some reason, Georgia can't defend the wheel route against Alabama.
Well, you see the pressure here.
If a Georgia fan watches
they got to defend the run.
If a Georgia fan watches this, I know that they've been cooked by the wheel route multiple times against Alabama, and it's got to give them nightmares. Because it's the only team that's like been able to get in their way from just having all sorts of undefeatedness. And just Jam Miller is that guy, and he's coming back. We're going to see if they're going to do that more with DeBoer's offense going forward. But that is just like some of these things are really good on Milroe. But I know you're ready to show the stuff that make you throw stuff across the room here in a second.
And this is full blast blitz out of Georgia. I mean, and this guy, great athlete or not, you're not running. You see the running back running, and he's already cooked. This guy is way faster, and he's trying his best to get over there because he's manned up on this running back, and he does a pretty solid play in all honesty, but just slightly not fast enough, and Jalen Milroe puts it right where he can. And this is the Oklahoma game, so a lot of people are going to be pointing to Oklahoma as a prime game to watch if you want to see the flaws in Jalen Milroe. And, I saw the stat line, 3 picks, less than 200 yards in this game. Alabama's offense just couldn't get the ball rolling. They couldn't run the ball. And when they did have an open receiver, the receiver would drop it 9 times out of 10. It was just a rough showing from the Alabama offense altogether. It necessarily wasn't even that bad on Milroe's behalf, even though the stat line might say he had a poor game. This is a poor throw from him, but I was looking through the game. I watched every single play, and I wasn't really seeing that many really bad throws. I saw Alabama's offensive line kind of getting bullied a little bit by this Oklahoma front, and Milroe just didn't have a lot of time to throw. And this is one of those examples where instant pressure off the right side here, and just thinks he's got to throw hot to this hitch route on the outside. And man, what a great play from this corner here. He just runs and picks this ball off here easily.
That play was the first drive in the second half.
Yeah. Yeah. Way to deflate all of the momentum that they were trying to build up in the locker room. And I mean, this is just a beautiful play. He's just basically on a a hard flat type of zone here. Perfect play call against this play here. Basically all hitches. I hate this play call, by the way, but
yeah, he had the slot on the left side on one-on-one coverage. I'm sorry, not the slot, the wide out on the left side was open.
Yeah, he definitely had him.
But I wonder,
and all hitches,
concept like that. I don't mean to talk over you there, but on all hitches, if they're absolutely predetermined, if he's predetermining where he's going to throw the ball there, sometimes I wonder if quarterbacks do that because they're like looking at the read and they're making their plays at line of scrimmage, they're making their checks, and they're just not accounting for the defense.
Yep, absolutely. So, and Anthony Richardson, fun fact, versus the Packers, I believe, 5 wide, same concept here, except this guy runs a whip route instead of another hitch. But most of the time, you're hiking the ball, and especially if it's versus, I think this is relatively short down in distance. You got basically hitch all the way. I hate this play call. I absolutely hate it, but sometimes it's a pretty free play call. But you're always throwing it to the bunch side or the trip side of the formation for the most part. That's just how coaches teach this, right? Because you have more reads here. You got this guy, you got this guy, and you got this guy, and you just read left to right for the most part. And you even see him. You even see Milroe's head right in this play. He goes, nope, yes. And he just, unfortunately, this receiver is like right in the way of this safety. So I don't even think Milroe sees him. And beautiful play by 20 here from Oklahoma. I'm not sure who that is. And he even gets a pick 6 out of it. Gets good job to, was that Milroe that attempted? Yeah, it actually was. Yep. Poor tackle attempt from Jalen Milroe. At least he tried to make the play. I also think that's relatively smart. I don't like trying to wrap up tackle a corner. I think doing exactly what he did and just trying to dive at his feet. That's exactly what I want, even though he missed the tackle. Yeah, it's very frustrating, or that's not 20, that's 10. And I think right when he decided to throw it, number 10 was right here behind this receiver, and I don't even think he saw it. And it's just a perfect play call. Perfect play call by Oklahoma there. And I will say another thing from Jalen Milroe, in all honesty. He is pretty intelligent. I didn't know much about him in terms of his intangibles. I just knew he was a really talented rusher of the football. And everything that I see about this kid, he's super smart, respectable, doesn't really have any bad press moments either. So I was actually pretty impressed with that. And with that tackle attempt, I know he missed it, but that's very intelligent quarterback play. You don't want to get hurt. You just want to dive at the feet. And then I believe this is a fumble. I think it's a fumble from Milroe. Sack strip fumble, I believe. No. Oh, no. This is another dagger concept here. Or, no, this is levels. So, basically in a levels concept, you've got, this isn't really the exact routes. It's more of a crossing route here. And then you have like a hitch down here. So, it's basically a levels concept where you read 1, 2, 3, right? So, you're reading out to in. And this is, I think he's just going on a clear out. So, decent play call overall by Alabama here, but ball placement's just slightly, Milroe has the right idea here. He's got an opening right in here, and he does have the arm to really make this play happen, but he's just a little late on it. And I don't know who this is running this route. What number is that? That's number 7, I think.
Is this the Auburn game?
This is the Auburn game. We'll get a better look at it here. But, yeah, it's number 7. You know who number 7 is?
No.
Okay. I would have loved to see him kind of sit down on this route. And I'll be honest, in the Washington offense, Coach DeBoer does have these types of option routes where you can kind of come across the field or have the option to sit down. And I don't know if this is necessarily on Milroe, but he could have sat down right here, kind of like he wants to, and he throws the ball, and it's just a little bit, maybe 2 yards to the right, and doesn't really throw it with enough touch, and he throws it slightly late as well. And this is something that shows up all over Milroe's tape. He's, pretty late on throw. Like, he has to throw this basically on the cut now. He has to throw it right now. He's like 3 ticks too late. And versus Auburn, SEC school, that's not going to fly. You can't throw throws late, and he tries to throw it with a little bit of anticipation here. You got to throw it right now. You got to hum it in there. Your feet are set. Throw it right here. On a line, hum it in there. You got the arm to do it. He just waits a little bit too long, lets this linebacker get in the play, pick it off. So that's something that you see all over the place on Milroe. Ball placement issues, late on throws. It's mainly the late on throws where he's just not really super confident in his ability sometimes. He just second guesses himself just for a second. And in the NFL, you don't get a chance to second guess yourself on throws. You'll throw a pick every single time or you'll get sacked. So, yeah. But like I said, huge upside with Jalen Milroe. He's got to clean that up, play on time. That's one of my biggest pet peeves with quarterbacks. You have to play on time in rhythm. And we'll talk about a guy that plays on time and on rhythm here in a minute with Shedeur Sanders. But, yeah, overall, very high highs, very low lows for Jalen Milroe.
We've been doing some amazing coverage. Bobby has just been handling it like a boss. So blessed to be doing this show with him. I mean,
it's been a ton of fun.
Look at the breakdown of film on this guy. Absolutely studying the concepts, studying the quarterbacks, understanding how these quarterbacks play football. And is this our last prospect? Is he the last one?
No, we've got 2 more. We've got Shedeur, and then we got 1 more guy, an absolute winner.
Okay. So after these 2 guys, we'll quickly break down how we think their fantasy outlooks are going. And we're just going to keep cruising right along. We've got 3 viewers. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want to leave a comment and ask a question, we'll absolutely get to it. But let's just go ahead and see what's going on here with our next definitely low profile kind of guy. I don't think this is a guy that spotlight and definitely has nothing going on with him. I think he's just kind of taking it easy and snuck in the draft. I mean, big guy though, 6'2". He's got the height. I think that there's a lot here to that's going to go. I think he's going to pull it out in Cleveland somehow. I do. I've said it before. I mean, we've already gone on with Dylan Gabriel tape. Cleveland Browns are such a questionable organization. The Haslam family is just – they donate to Tennessee, so I'm not too fond of them. They gave him a bunch of money to a questionable quarterback, hoping to re-snap, catch some lightning in a bottle. They got something in a bottle, that's for sure. I'm sure he's going to be bottling up that salary and getting him out the door as far as I'm thinking.
Oh, yeah.
But let's see what Deion's son, Shedeur Sanders, has to offer our audience here. Quarterback.
So with Shedeur Sanders out of Colorado, formerly of Jackson State, about 30 minutes away from my house, got to see him play a couple times live. That was pretty good treat to watch. And he's 6'2", 212, around the same build as pretty much every single other prospect outside of Dylan Gabriel. Fine size overall. And he fell all the way to the 5th round. I did say this prior to the draft. I thought with all the bad media that was coming out about him, which I don't necessarily buy into all that much, and just his overall skill level, in my opinion, I did not think he was worthy of a first-round pick. I said my hot take, he was going to fall out of the first round and even land in day 3. I was right about that, and he fell to the 5th round to the Cleveland Browns. I will say one thing. There's very few teams in the NFL that need a quarterback. Very few teams in the NFL at this point in time. Most teams are pretty much set with their guy for the time being. And the 5th round draft capital, you saw a lot of these guys, like Kyle McCord went in the 6th round. Quinn Ewers went in the 7th round. These guys that were borderline, projected 3rd to 4th round picks. All the guys that needed quarterbacks, all the organizations, they got their quarterbacks in the 1st and 2nd round. And then there was really no reason to take any other quarterbacks until late in the draft when those teams knew that we'll just use them as a backup, or, this is just a stash play or something like that. And that's why a lot of these quarterbacks, including Shedeur Sanders, fell, in my opinion. And the Browns had already even taken a quarterback, and they were just like, this is just too much value for Shedeur. And in my opinion, I had him around a 3rd round pick in terms of my evaluation of him. But 5th round's definitely good value. He's 23 years old, going to the Browns. And it's a very interesting quarterback room, right? They have Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Shedeur Sanders, and Dylan Gabriel. And we kind of talked about this. And they have Deshaun Watson, who, I don't even think this is a hot take anymore. I do not think he plays another snap with the Cleveland Browns for the rest of his career. I do think he'll land somewhere, despite having all the bad press about him. He'll probably land somewhere but I wouldn't be surprised if he's out of football next year. So with the Browns, I think Flacco's probably getting the start early on. And Pickett, it just doesn't make sense for you to trade for him, even though it was late round draft capital, just to cut him off the rip. I don't think that makes sense. And I think, they won't keep 4 quarterbacks on the roster. And if they let a guy like Shedeur Sanders go to the practice squad, he's most definitely getting signed somewhere else. But overall, I could see them cutting Kenny Pickett and then leaving those 3 guys on the roster. And in my opinion, I think Dylan Gabriel has slightly more talent in terms of his experience, and he's a little bit more polished in terms of his pocket mechanics, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But with Shedeur Sanders, really great season last year. I know people were hyping up Colorado, but they're far from a finished team. They were dead last in their conference just a couple years ago, and then primetime came over, and they took them to, I want to say they doubled their wins. Won the first game of the year versus TCU as well, who was coming off a national championship appearance. And then 4,100 passing yards, 37 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. Great numbers overall for Shedeur Sanders. And what is there to like about Shedeur Sanders? He's probably the most... Oh, go ahead.
Before you start, one thing that I can say that I think might hold him back is, 2 things. First one being a coach's son. He hasn't been for anybody else but Dion, not a single other coach. So you're going to have to kind of see how that personality trait plays out, because that is walking a different line. And the second thing is Colorado didn't have any major wins. Every time they played a team that was good, they didn't finish. It took them a stroke of luck to beat North Dakota State, who's a very good football team, in their division. It was an FCS game last year. It was in Colorado. It came down to the wire. And he had a Hail Mary against Baylor. That was a beautiful throw and got the job done. But it doesn't tell, they had these games where they would blow people out, but the offensive line, with his blaming his own line and not taking ownership on some things. At the quarterback position, you have to do that because linemen will tell you to pound sand. They'll just let somebody hit you. You're not gonna. I think that was like a Carson Wentz thing. Carson Wentz, I don't know anybody that likes that guy. His offensive line, I remember seeing a game with him in Washington, I think it was, where he just got smoked on the sidelines. None of his linemen went and helped him up. It's a tell. But I think it's a wait and see. But like I said, Colorado didn't have any big wins in either one of his seasons that he started there. They drastically improved the program. Deion's a big story. Travis Hunter bailed him out. He had a big weapon like that. Then Travis Hunter was the #1 overall top prospect of his recruiting class. Went with him to Jackson State. So there was some familiarity there. I'd like to see Shedeur play another year without Travis Hunter and kind of see what he would be able to do without a top prospect like that. But he's going to the NFL where there's going to be top players there. He'll have Jerry Jeudy there at least if he does play, which does help. That's something that's a veteran, wide receiver. And, let's just take a look at what he does good and what he doesn't do so well.
Yeah, so overall, in terms of his passing, I think he's a very gifted passer when he gets the ball off. Very accurate overall. super accurate. Might be one of the most accurate quarterbacks in this entire class. He's got some really pretty throws where he shows anticipation and touch. And like I said, we talked about that earlier. Anticipation and touch are very important at the NFL level, and he's got all of that. But there's some stuff, especially with his mechanics, that just drive me nuts, especially with his pocket presence. So there are reps where he hikes the ball, steps up in the pocket, and throws a dart. Those plays are awesome. But then there's other times where he just, and we'll talk about this in the film, where he just kind of drifts back in the pocket 3 or 4 or 5 extra steps. And for your offensive linemen, that generates horrible angles for them, and they are not going to be able to block for you when you are 15 yards downfield behind them. You have to step up in the pocket. There's a reason why they call it the pocket. It's because that's how your linemen are trained to block for you. They're supposed to create that pocket. The pocket's not 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And he routinely walks back there, and he ends up taking 15, 20-yard sacks, and that kills drives completely, and he does it all the time. That's going to have to be coached out of him. And like I said, with the coach thing, how does he respond to different kinds of coaching? I know his dad was relatively hard on him, which is good. That's going to prepare him slightly, but there's different types of coaching personalities, and we're just going to have to see how he meshes with that. Overall, he seems to have fit in pretty well, at least at rookie minicamp and OTAs. He seems like that 5th-round pick really humbled him a good bit, and he kind of, set in and was just like enjoying his time. He just loves to be there, and he's being there early for all the practices and stuff. So that's good. That means he's really taking it serious. That's good. But there's another thing. Well. Exactly. To a really big, not a controversy, but adversity. He had to go through a lot of adversity, falling all the way to the 5th round, where he's not even guaranteed a roster spot. He's not even guaranteed the roster spot, So interesting. And another thing, he holds the ball way too long. You saw in clips from Jackson Dart and Cam Ward, if you've been watching this long, where they hold the ball too long and they're looking for a play. I'm telling you right now, guys, Dart and Cam Ward are both significantly better athletes than Shedeur Sanders. And Shedeur Sanders likes to try to run around the field and try to make a play out of nothing, and he's just not fast enough or athletic enough to make that happen. And he ends up taking 15, 20-yard sacks, and we'll go over that. But let's go ahead and look at some of the throws that he does extremely well. So this first play versus this is UCF. Pretty solid defense here. This is very impressive throw here. So I want to say it's Travis Hunter. He's not a Travis Hunter merchant, guys. I will say kind of going downfield here. So this is basically Travis Hunter on a post. He kind of rounds this route off a little bit more than I'd like. I'd like to see him cut this up a little bit more, but it's fine. Shedeur Sanders has to throw a heater because this safety's coming. This guy's playing pretty high up on Travis Hunter, but Travis Hunter's going to get just enough separation, and he's got to put this ball right here, or else this safety. And if you throw it late, just like we saw in the Jalen Milroe film, Travis Hunter's either going to the hospital or it's getting picked off. And thankfully, Travis Hunter does what he does best and evades those defenders and gets the touchdown. But overall, this is great anticipation from Shedeur Sanders. I don't like that he kind of looks down his receiver a little bit, but that's typical at the college level.
Yeah.
Looking off safeties and stuff is very rare at the collegiate level. And Travis Hunter just waltz in. That's a great play. That's a big boy throw, and it shows that he can throw on a line, throw with touch, and get it in there before the safety responds to it. This is versus cover one, so can't have cover one versus Travis Hunter. That's just ridiculous.
I saw Cam Ward look off a couple safeties this past season. That's why I think he went number one. You saw stuff like that
too.
Yeah, you saw that stuff that you can't teach really too much at the second level like that. So it's a good take there on Shedeur.
Yeah. So this is almost smash. Normally smash is played like so. Short route underneath, and your guy in the slot's running a corner. But I don't know if this routes ran wrong or they're doing something interesting here at Colorado, but they're just playing the seams here, and it's actually a pretty good play call because it's man coverage all across the board. So, in all honesty, well, actually, it's not man coverage; it's cover 2 zone. But this is a great, impressive play from Shedeur Sanders because he has to layer this ball. If you put heat on it, this guy's going to be able to get his hand up, bat the ball down, or even pick it off if he's athletic enough. But this is a beautiful play because he's got an open area right here. And look, he's throwing it right now.
Yeah.
And this is anticipation that I was talking about, guys. Boom.
Yeah.
Throws
perfect.
it to where nobody else can grab it.
Did Jimmy?
That's no, I don't think so. I don't think Jimmy wore 4. I guess we'll see a better look at it. But it's number 6.
Yeah, that's him, isn't it?
Maybe. I just thought that he's smaller.
Either way, it's a hell of a throw.
It's a hell of a throw, and you see where he throws it. He throws it.
Look at that. Right? That freeze frame is just great.
Right away from this guy, just high enough to where this guy can't reach for it. That's what we call layering the football, and it's what coaches look for. And, it didn't have the zip on it, but he layered it. He used touch and great yak ability from the receiver getting off those tackles and just taking it in for the end zone. But overall, he was throwing that receiver open. That's what he did. Yeah. He threw that receiver open. That's a great throw. And he does that all the time. You'll see really good throws from him on tape pretty consistently if he's able to get the throw off. This is one of those instances where, look, he's just drifting back.
Yeah.
And you would love to just see him. You would love to see him step up. It's not like he's got a bunch of pressure here. Just step up, stop. And look, 22's able to get to him. And he's able to run away, but he ends up taking about 10 extra yards. Tom Brady's the greatest greatest quarterback of all time at the NFL level. Tom Brady's going to step up in this pocket and throw a strike here, especially on this out route here. That would have been what Tom Brady does. You got to make some violent movements in the pocket, step up, be a big boy, take a hit if you need to, make the throw. Shedeur Sanders just drifts back in the pocket, and he ends up. This guy overall, this tackle can keep going this way if Shedeur's up here and he can block, but with this angle the way it is, he's not going to be able to keep this guy from getting to his outside hip. You just can't do that. Physics won't allow you to do that. And he does make it. He does make it away from the defender, and he just runs back and literally takes.
Quarterback forget that they can just throw the ball in the dirt. He may have panicked in that play and didn't see anything open and tried to make something out of nothing. And at the second level, he's still between the tackles there, so he just can't whip it out of bounds. But you could throw it short and in the dirt, and
you can throw it. You can. Well, if you throw it in the dirt, that's intentional grounding and it's a loss of down.
No. Like just kind of throw it. If you just
throw it at your receiver's feet. That's how they teach it, right? Throw it to your check down's feet, right? And that's and well, I would love this play. Obviously if you're Colorado's offensive coordinator, you're not planning on Shedeur taking a sack here, but I'd love this running back to just come over and sit down. For some reason, he's running like a angle route or something. Like you have deep routes, you have deep routes all across the field. So there's no point, and just have this running back just check protection and sit down, and that's all you have to do. And that way, he does have a hot route. In this play, he really doesn't have a hot route outside of this out route here, I guess. And he's got pressure. You'd want him to throw it to the out route, but it's kind of far away from him. In all honesty, you want your hot routes on your short side of the field more than likely, unless it's behind the line of scrimmage. It's kind of a weird play call in all honesty, but a terrible sack, and he does this all the time. It's really frustrating. So here's another angle from it. And this is where you'll see that pocket kind of generate. Yeah, you got some penetration from 94 here, but you got to step up. I mean, you have an area right here where you can step up and make that throw. He just doesn't do it and just tries to run away and make a throw and ends up taking about a 15, 20-yard sack. Here's another one here where this is just an awful read.
Right there, he's got the guy in the flat wide open. Wide open. Yep.
Yeah, wide open. And, he does try to throw it here on this. And in all honesty, I guess he's expecting this linebacker to play the flat since he's so wide open, and he'll have a little bit of room to throw here. But all in all, I mean, he just does not have it. He does not have
that
this
linebacker in conflict. And
this is him kind of throwing to Travis Hunter a little bit too, and he sees the safety. He sees the safety bite on this, and I guess he's expecting this guy to follow him. But very good play from the linebacker jumping this. So I do see what he's seeing, and this is where anticipation can bite you. So Shedeur Sanders is very good at anticipatory throws, and he throws it, and he's trying to throw it open, but this guy reads his eyes all the way and gets a great play off. This is versus UCF. This is actually, I think, the first play of the game, too, if I remember correctly. And what a way to start the game with a turnover inside your own end zone. Yeah, tough play here. Great play from the defender, though. I mean, you see him. He runs this way as fast as he can and then flips his hips, goes back, and makes the play. Great play from the UCF defender.
Man.
Yeah, great play from number 3 there. Absolutely full Shedeur Sanders here. So, yeah, that was some Shedeur Sanders film. And this is the last guy that we talk about. I do want to give a brief overview on Shedeur Sanders. So, obviously, has tons of really solid throws on tape, like Tua-level throws. I know Tua and good throws, for some reason, the football community just doesn't like Tua as much. But if you watch Tua's tape, he's got some pretty throws. And Shedeur Sanders absolutely has that as well. And if he's able to fix those pocket issues, that's the biggest problem I have with him is his drifting back, trying to make plays and getting sacked for 15, 20-yard losses. He's got to clean that up, throw on time, which he normally does, and step up in that pocket. And if he's able to do that, I think he's Teddy Bridgewater. I think that's his ceiling, is like a Teddy Bridgewater type of player. And I don't think he has the highest upside. I don't think he's as talented as Tua by any means, but he's got that Teddy Bridgewater type of upside with the floor of being somebody much worse than that if he can't get because he'll get killed at the NFL level legitimately if he keeps doing that. So
yeah, good stuff on Shedeur, man. We've been just cruising around. We're almost 2 hours in, so we're going to be wrapping this up with Will Howard here and defending national champion Ohio State Buckeyes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people want to pile on Ryan Day for not beating Michigan in a while, but I don't think any Ohio State fan gives a rat's ass when you win the national championship. I wouldn't care too much if Alabama lost to Auburn but won the whole thing. So that kind of rivalry thing has lost its significance a little bit without any consequence to postseason play.
Yeah.
But Will Howard replaced Kyle McCord, and Kyle McCord, in my opinion, is a better quarterback than Will Howard. We're not going to go over Kyle McCord. We're not going to go over Quinn Ewers. But Will Howard has not. We decided, before we did the show that we were going to do quarterbacks that have potential paths to play, and I don't think that Kyle McCord or Quinn Ewers have that right now. But I thought Kyle McCord was crazy to go to Syracuse. I mean, he went there and just played out of his brain. But if he would have stayed at Ohio State, I think they would have won a championship anyway. I think they just wanted to scapegoat him. They wanted to blame somebody. Ohio State did, and decided to go Will Howard, and it paid off for Ohio State's benefit. I mean, they throttled Tennessee in the playoff. I mean, that wasn't even close. And then beat Texas, and in the semifinal, wasn't it Texas in the semifinal? And then I feel like I'm missing one.
Oh, they beat Oregon. They beat Oregon.
So the path wasn't easy. Tennessee, Oregon, Texas. and then you win the national championship against Notre Dame. But I felt Notre Dame was kind of running on fumes at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, they really were. They were overmatched from the start. It was amazing. Notre Dame kept it close as it was.
Yeah.
For that time. I mean, that Ohio State, though, they really did kind of skate by at the end. They didn't win because of Will Howard. They won because Jack Sawyer making that pick late in the end zone. I mean, just an atrocious play call by Sark. I wonder if sometimes if that's just like you're not in a position or you're in a position where you panic because Texas looked like they were going to win that football game. And it was a classic for sure. It was a Sugar Bowl. It was a good one.
Yep.
But let's get into our boy Will.
So Will Howard replacing Kyle McCord. I will say I'll do a quick thing on Kyle McCord. I'm so happy that he went to Syracuse because Kyle McCord wasn't this gunslinger type of guy at Ohio State because they really didn't ask him to do that. He was very measured. They asked him to be measured. And then he goes to Syracuse, that air raid offense, and just pops off and showcases all of the talent. I thought he had the best arm in this class and was able to throw some heaters into tight windows. And that's why I loved Kyle McCord coming out of Syracuse. But with Will Howard taking over, he's 6'4", 236 pounds, big boy. And they used him in the run game too in the QB power. He is a pretty solid athlete, but I don't think that Arthur Smith, if he does end up getting the starting job, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come to Pittsburgh, I do think he starts over Mason Rudolph since they've already kind of had that experiment and it did not go well. Will Howard, the 6th round pick, could absolutely come in. And guys, he's a 6th round pick. He's the 6th round pick, but I think he was my QB3 coming out. And, it was Cam Ward, Kyle McCord, then Will Howard. I loved Will Howard and what I saw on tape. He's 23 years old. And, last year he put up over 4,000 passing yards, 35 touchdowns, 10 picks. I will say those stats are a little inflated because that's including all of his college football playoff games. So he did play 4 more games than other people did. When Kyle McCord led the nation, he didn't even go to the college football playoff. That's insane. But things I love about him, I thought his mechanics were the best of any quarterback in this class. I mean, he's got a very good base. He doesn't overhitch all the time, and he resets his feet after every read. And I know that sounds inefficient, but the way he does it very efficiently, and he's got a very good throwing motion as well, where he can really get the ball out fast. And Will Howard, I know people weren't really familiar with him before he came to Ohio State. He was a Kansas State guy, and he took them to back-to-back Pac-12 championships. That's very impressive. Like, Kansas State's always been a pretty decent school, but he really elevated that program and won a ton of games at Kansas State over his 2 years there. And then he comes to Ohio State and wins the national championship, guys. He wins everywhere he goes. 1 in high school, 1 in college, and now if he goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers and he starts, I think he'll win some games in the NFL too. The coach for the Steelers, Mike Tomlin, he's never had a losing season. So I think if Will Howard goes under center and you run the ball with Arthur Smith offense, I think Will Howard can be very efficient in that offense. But there are some limitations to his game, guys. He's got a limited arm, and that really shows up in his deep ball. Really shows up in his deep ball. His deep ball is probably the worst of any quarterback in this draft class, which is kind of tough because Arthur Smith does like to do those play-action shot plays. And he does have some deep balls here and there that are solid, but very inconsistent. So he doesn't have, all the zip down the field that you'd want. But overall, the short to intermediate game, he's got that every single day of the week.
Remember what I said earlier about that? Like, you may not have to be able to throw it all deep if you can win football games. Nick Saban said football's a game of 10 yards. I mean, you want to get first downs. That's way more important than throwing these beautiful, deep 65-yard bombs. I mean, those are exciting to watch, no question. But ball knowers understand that quarterbacks that are game managers and can do things efficient and eliminate mistakes are going to help take you to the promised land. And Will did that with the Ohio State Buckeyes. Didn't help to have some of these, Emeka and, Jeremiah Smith. But that certainly didn't hinder his game at all.
Tate.
But he'll have DK Metcalf if he gets an opportunity to start, and he's a burner. He can play.
Roman Wilson there as well.
Jalen Warren is a pretty solid running back. I mean, he's solid. He's good enough to. He's better.
I
than
love
Najee
Caleb
Harris.
Johnson there too. Love Caleb Johnson's landing spot there. Hopefully, we get to do a show about the running backs. That's going to be tons of fun too.
That'll probably be next week's topic.
Absolutely. But
I'm going to put you on while you talk about this real quick. I'm going to remove myself for one moment, but go ahead and just keep going with the film.
oh, for sure. So, yeah, one last thing I do want to talk about with Will Howard before we get into the film. He was surrounded by a ton of talent. You know, he had 2 running backs that were, second-round talents, right? Emeka Egbuka was a first-round pick. Jeremiah Smith, if he keeps going at the rate he's going, he'll be a top 5 pick probably. And he's got 2 tackles that were draftees as well. So tons of talent around him. But, he did it at Kansas State too, and he didn't have all the talent there. So I think he just wins. He's just a winner. So let's go ahead and get into the film real quick. So with Will Howard, this is versus Oregon in the Rose Bowl. And I want to say this is one of the first plays of the game. And if you guys watch John Gruden at Barstool Sports, he did a QB school prior to the draft, and they actually talked about this play. And it's just a wide open. Oh no, this isn't the play. This is a beautiful play. It's kind of a dangerous throw, but he puts it to where only Emeka Egbuka can get it. And man, it is just a banger of a throw. Obviously,
they went out there and shocked Oregon, and they
smacked them in the mouth as soon as the game started. I mean,
yep.
I will say I would have loved this this post here. It's kind of wide open here.
Jesus.
But instead of that, I think Will Howard's like, nah, who cares? The safeties aren't deep enough. Emeka Egbuka is going to go out there and make a play. Love Emeka Egbuka. He's a wonderful person as well. You guys watch any interviews with Emeka Egbuka, you'll probably love him immediately. But great play from Will Howard, and this angle shows it even better.
While you're pulling that next one up, I think in this game, Ohio State should have beaten Oregon in their regular season matchup. There was a little bit of clock mismanagement from when I remember the game ending.
Yep, he slid down a little too late.
Yeah, I was fairly certain Ohio State had blood they were boiling to play this game. There's zero doubt that I think that they were happy that they got Oregon in the traditional Big Ten versus Big Ten game going on here. I mean, the Rose Bowl couldn't have planned it any better, but I knew for certain from a gambling perspective that I was going to win. I took Ohio State laying the points.
Yeah.
I couldn't even remember them getting points, but there's just no way Oregon got by on the skin of their teeth, and I think that they knew it. I think Oregon knew that they should have lost that game. And like we went over earlier, Dylan Gabriel is a great quarterback, but I think that sometimes your team is just ready. It doesn't matter. All that stuff you could toss out the window sometimes. We're breaking down film and analytics, but there also is psychology to football, and there is motivation in different things. It's not all robot-based. I mean, we look at stuff like this, and we want these for fantasy perspectives, and coaches like to look at this for anticipation and ability to read defense and things along that sort. But it's also a game of emotion. And when you're in tune and you're ready, it's really hard to stop you. I guarantee Ohio State was ready the second they beat Tennessee for this game. They were just ready to go, and nothing was getting in their way. Just had to pop that in there.
Absolutely. Yeah, and they were feeling themselves for this game, and that's why the first play, this isn't the first play of the game, but crossing route here, and Will Howard, this is a great angle of the play, just drops it in the bucket. I know I told you guys that he didn't have the best deep ball. This is one of the exceptions to that. Just drops it in the bucket, guys. There's 3 guys around him, and he puts it to where only Emeka Egbuka can do it. And then I want to say this is a run play from Will Howard, right? No. Oh, yes, it is.
So this is the title game here.
Yeah, this is the title game versus Notre Dame. I was really, really pulling for Ohio State because I am a Mississippi State fan, but I'm also an Army fan, and I knew that they were going to come on strong last year and be a ranked team, and Notre Dame just put that to bed real quick. They smashed Army in the mouth, unfortunately, and ever since then, I just wanted Notre Dame to lose. And
sure.
Well,
join the conference, hippie.
Exactly. And there's nothing really open here. He's got the flat here, but he's not really looking over there. He's looking at these two routes coming over here to the sideline and trying to get one of those open. And honestly, they've got it bagged. So what does Will Howard do? Will Howard, he's 6'4", 200. Oh, wait, he doesn't run it. Oh, yes, I do remember this play now. This is a Quinshon Judkins special here, guys. So beautiful running. People don't really give Quinshon Judkins credit for being a pass-catching back like that. They give that more to Travion Henderson, who I love. But this is a great play from Henderson and an even better improvisational play from Will Howard. In the national championship game, flips his hips, sees him break off, and this is something that people are kind of aware of, especially if you were, a defensive coordinator. Do not let Will Howard run the ball because he will scramble and he will get yardage and he'll fight through tackles too if he needs to. And they wanted to play a little bit of contain on him. They leave the assignment for Quinshon Judkins, who works upfield spectacularly here. And that's something, Will Howard's not a dual threat, but he is, he can run on the ground if he needs to, think like Carson Wentz or somebody like that, a big quarterback that has the legs and the athleticism, and boom, flips it out off his off-platform throw. Beautiful play by him here. So this is against Penn State. I think this is the Big Ten championship. This is just one of those plays where
Ohio State's not play for the Big Ten championship.
Oh, this must have been their regular season.
It was Penn State and Oregon, wasn't it?
Penn State and Oregon. That's right. This is their regular season game versus Penn State. And what I think happened here is Will Howard, if you look at this, you're kind of seeing man coverage across the board if you're Will Howard, right? That's what you're thinking. Man coverage across the board here. And I think Will Howard thought that. And immediately, Jeremiah Smith is going to win on this pretty much 9 times out of 10. And then you got this, out route here or corner route here. And he does not expect this linebacker to play this. So this is kind of a exotic coverage from Penn State here. And the linebacker just gets to break off, get a free interception here. Beautiful play. This is pretty much, I don't know. I feel like this is man coverage. This is a weird coverage from Penn State. But beautiful play by the linebacker. Or is this a DB? I'm not sure. I think that's a linebacker. But he thinks it's man-to-man coverage, so he thinks all day this slant route from Jeremiah Smith's open. It's not. It was zone the whole time.
Game. Such a close game. It came down to the end. I think Ohio State was trailing late in that game, too, and just pulled it out.
Yep. This is the regular season game versus Oregon, where Will Howard, if you guys didn't watch the game, is an absolute spectacular game. I was actually at the casino when I watched this game. I was in a poker tournament watching this game live and saw Will Howard. I was like, oh, they're going to get the field goal for the game winner, and he just slid a second too late because they had the timeout and everything, and he just slid second too late, and they ended up losing that. But here's another play here where this is where his deep ball kind of comes into question here. So Jeremiah Smith does have this. You're going to have to put it over here somewhere, but he definitely has the separation. This safety's not fast enough. This corner's not fast enough. You've got this play. This is a big play.
Yeah.
And I will say he got hit, but just kind of sails a little bit. And, he gets the ball out of his hands. Yeah, he does get hit, but the defender didn't make that throw go any different. He may have had to rush it a little bit, but overall, throwing deep downfield like this is not Will Howard's game. It ends up getting picked off. Jeremiah Smith tries. Oh, actually, it doesn't get picked off. Jeremiah Smith's just a goat. That's what happened. This is a completed pass, but not because of Will Howard's ball placement. Yes, it's a back shoulder throw, I guess, but this is not supposed to be a back shoulder throw, guys.
Judkins was wide open in the flat. Wide open.
But Who cares?
Judkins,
If you got
yeah.
Jeremiah Smith, throw
Yeah.
it to him in double coverage.
I'll take 35 yards over 5 every time.
Yeah. And, Jeremiah Smith, I want to talk about him real quick. Super speedy athlete. Some people actually have been comparing him to Randy Moss, which is kind of crazy. I see more like Andre Johnson with him.
That's still good.
Nonetheless, he's a super fantastic talent and pretty great person too. And that's it, guys. That's the last bit of film that we have.
All right.
So pretty solid stuff from Will Howard all around. I think he's a pretty talented quarterback. He just has to, he's a little limited in what he can do. The deep balls are a thing, and he's okay as an athlete, but not necessarily a dual threat. And he'll eat in the short to intermediate areas of the field. And I think he's the most pro-ready quarterback in this class.
But maybe he fell into the Steelers' lap. I mean, the Steelers.
Caleb Johnson fell to him in their laps too. So third round pick, that was insane.
That's a little different. I mean, quarterbacks don't grow on trees. Not that running backs do or anybody with those kind of talents do. But it is interesting to see. I mean, the Steelers might be playing a dangerous game of poker here. Again, we're looking at the June 1st is kind of like the last big event of the NFL offseason before camp starts. Are they going to get Kirk Cousins? Are they going to get Aaron Rodgers? What are they going to do? Are they going to roll the Mason Rudolph? I mean, we're going to see. The Steelers have got some serious decisions to make because quarterback's a position you just can't be fumbling around this late with. I mean, it's a good thing they drafted him. Maybe he's the guy that they like. I don't know. We don't know. We're not behind those doors. But I think that the Steelers are going to – I get a feeling they're going to get Kirk. I think Atlanta's got their guy, and I think that they're going to be able to eat some of that salary just to get rid of him. And a Kirk credit, man, everybody likes to dogpile on him, but I think he's finally got healed from that Achilles. I think that takes 2 years to heal, and quarterbacks have to have that foot right. I think if Rodgers comes back next year, I think he might play really well again because his Achilles is fully healed. And then he finished strong down the stretch. He had average starting numbers, but he didn't have elite MVP Aaron Rodgers numbers that we're used to seeing. But the Jets did finish, pretty decent offensively with him in those last few games. So it's just we'll see what's going on with Will Howard there. I think it's all, what I wanted to do with this series. I think we're going to do running backs next week. And with quarterbacks, though, we wanted to get all our Dynasty people out here that are watching to see, who has the potential to play. And Bobby did a fantastic job. Absolutely just showing this film and showing the goods and showing the bads. And real quick to wrap it up, I guess just real quick comments. It looks like Cam Ward obviously is going to play. What's your favorite landing spot for all the quarterbacks that got drafted?
Probably Jackson Dart to the Giants, just because I believe in that coach the most out of all the quarterbacks. Mike Tomlin's more of a defensive guy. Arthur Smith, I have a love-hate relationship with Arthur Smith as an offensive coordinator. I don't really know what the Seahawks are going to be doing in terms of their coaches, if they are going to keep those guys long-term. The only guy that I've really seen prove himself as a coach in developing talent is Brian Daboll. So I feel like that's the best situation for a quarterback to be in, especially since he doesn't have to start right away. But
awesome. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have been at this for 2 hours and 8 minutes. We have had 4 viewers. We had a couple comments. I had a great time. This is our first episode. We're going to do this, like I said, every Friday. So we know that Big Ten football comes on Fridays, but we'll still be here breaking down for all your fantasy needs. Format of the show might change a little bit. We won't be going over film as much during the season. We'll kind of just be recapping what's going on and helping make those best dynasty decisions. And remember, hold on to your draft picks accordingly because you never know what kind of quarterback. I got Milroe in I think I got him in a trade in one of the leagues I'm in. But he was going second round all across the board in 12-team Superflex leagues. And everybody loves their dynasty leagues because there's no offseason. It's guys like Bobby here that once the NFL season ends, he's got all that college All-22 film. This is why this is the All-22 Dynasty Football Show. And if you go to his channel, you will see him. He's done a breakdown. I saw Anthony Richardson. What's a couple other that you've done this week?
So this week, and it's a new series that I've been doing, breaking down all 22 on people. I've done Kyron Williams this week. I've done Anthony Richardson, and I've done Brian Thomas Jr. This week. And the next guy is looking like it's going to be Kyle Pitts at the tight end position. From a person that's played tight end at a pretty high level, I feel like I know that position pretty well. So if you guys want a relatively expert opinion on the tight end position, you can go check out Kyle Pitts. He'll probably be out at some point this weekend.
Kyle Pitts, I've held him in dynasty leagues, and I know he's an elite talent at Florida. He's practically a wide receiver, but man, he is just not. And I don't think it's his fault. I think if he gets dealt, somebody's going to get him 100 grabs.
And they've given him. The Falcons have heard probably. I'm hearing 5 different offers from 5 different teams for Kyle Pitts this week alone. So he might get dealt. I don't think he gets dealt, but he might get dealt.
Well, if the price is right, anybody's expendable, really. I mean,
I'm thinking like a 4th or 5th round pick, which is criminal for a guy that you pick top 15.
If the Dallas Mavericks are willing to deal Luka, you just never know. Everybody's got a price, man.
Yeah,
any closing thoughts?
Overall, I think Cam Ward, I'd probably lean not getting in your mid-first round unless you're really quarterback needy. I think Jackson Dart's worth a late first in your rookie drafts all the way around if you haven't done your rookie drafts yet. If you're waiting until after camp, which I know some people are. I think Will Howard in the early 4th, late 3rd's really good value. Milroe, I actually got Milroe at the 307 in my 10-team Superflex league. Just because of the startable situation with Jalen Milroe, he might just be on Malik Willis and be a backup. But I believe in the upside. I got him at the 307. I think if you get him anywhere in the early to mid-3rd, that's great value. Shadur Sanders, I wouldn't recommend drafting just because of all the holes in his game. And Dylan Gabriel's probably a mid-4th round as well. So if you can get any of those quarterbacks, if you're looking at that, that's probably where I'd value them at. Is there anybody else that I missed? Cam Ward. Tyler Shuck is probably a late 2nd. But I probably wouldn't grab him just because I don't think his ceiling's very high. And I think that's all 6 of the guys. Just going over like their overall values, in my opinion, if you're going to buy them or sell them. But yeah. I'd lean Will Howard. I'd probably lean Will Howard and Jalen Milroe and then Dart as my absolute QB1 at his price right now.
That's always important, is to make sure that you understand your pricing and your team needs. Try to avoid reaching and try to find value, but sometimes you got to go get your guy like the New York Giants.
Absolutely.
Luckily, I've went here and got my guy to help me with these live streams. I've learned some stuff about film. I hope that you guys have learned some stuff about film. We hope to help you win your fantasy championships and have fun with Dynasty football and enjoy life, man. Things are good. We will do this next week at 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. And we will do running backs next week. And I have thoroughly enjoyed this. And make sure that you follow Bobby's Big Board YouTube channel and follow him on X at Bobby's Big Board. He is always posting all 22 stuff, like I've said earlier. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we wish you a great weekend, and we will see you next week. I will be here Sunday to do a live stream on UFL Week 10 wrap-up as we get ready for the playoffs next week. So you should check that out, Bobby. Maybe you can get some fun on that. You might something fun.
Absolutely.
All right, y'all. Have a great one.